Hey, what's up everybody? It's Great Value Kujay here, and I have a great video for you today. It's about Gambit, but not just Gambit, my idea for an endgame weekend-only playlist version of Gambit that would award adepts. And I'm going to accomplish this by taking a look at Gambit as it is now, Gambit Prime, Trials of Osiris, even the Gambit tournaments from before the mode came out. But I'm also going to take a look at mechanics from raids, dungeons, Menagerie, Sundial, even some other games like, for instance, Apex Legends. And there's probably some others I'm just not thinking of at the moment. But before we get into the actual video, I'm going to chill for a second. I'm sorry, but I have to do it. So please subscribe to this channel with notifications on, maybe leave a comment, a like, you know that. Also, I have a Twitter. Please go follow that if you have Twitter. I also have a Twitch. Please go follow that. 50 followers. I think I'm doing a 12-hour stream. So if you're interested in that, I would love to have you there. And I also have a Discord server if you need LFG or if you want to share your transmog Guardian fashion. We also do community nights, so yeah, just stick around and have some fun. Alright, now since someone's killed the Templar, let's get into the actual video. Gambit in its current state is the only core playlist that has no endgame, nor does it have any adept weapons. Trials of Osiris offers adept weapons and its endgame Crucible. Endgame strikes have adept weapons. Even endgame raids, which aren't a core playlist, have adept weapons or time lost. Gambit neither has an endgame nor does it have adepts, which is weird. Which, being that the 9 have a stake in Gambit, and it's part of their plan, along with Drifter wanting to become more powerful, and even the Spider has some stake in Gambit succeeding, and Shin Malphur. There's a lot of people involved with the lore of Gambit, but there's not much backing it up, and a lack of support for it. So, from both a lore and gameplay perspective, an endgame Gambit is a hole that is missing from the game, which could help the entire game mode by separating the more casual and sweaty side of the mode. In order to make Gambit an endgame experience, we need to change some of the rules for the mode to make it more competitive. First, I would raise the modes to get a Primeval to 150. This will extend your ad clear phase, but the Primeval phase is also longer, making it just generally a longer than 5-minute game. While probably not as long as a Trials match, and to fix one of the biggest problems currently facing Gambit, heavy ammo only drops from crates. Enemies will not be able to drop any heavy no matter how many scavengers or finder mods you have. It will only come from crates. This will help contain the heavy ammo economy and make it more controlled. Restricting heavy ammo forces your team to strategize whether you should use heavy ammo for boss damage or to catch up and clear ads faster, maybe for invasions or protecting your team from invaders. Also, in my concept, high value targets would be champions, and due to this you would restrict every week to a specific race or combo of races with Scorn having their own week. That way you can know what loadouts you want before you go in and possibly even support locked loadouts. So you would have, Fallen and Vex together since they have overloads and barriers, and then you do Cabal and Hive together because they have unstoppables and barriers, and Scorn would have their own week due to not having any champions. This makes it harder to kill high value targets and makes it more important to focus on them since they are just generally stronger. In addition to having the high value targets and the ads be of a specific race every week, you'd have a specific Primeval and a specific map every week. This is to make it easier on your team to strategize the best way to optimize your speed through the ad phase, through DPS, and to learn rotations of invaders and all that That way you can try to perfect your strategy going into the game. But the other team may throw a wrench in your works. It's just a game of outsmarting one another. And I think in something like Trials, you do see that, but I feel like Gambit, you could see it a little bit more. As for the more general rules, I would keep blockers the same as they are now, but invasions, I would up to 30 moats. Being that we're upping the moat collection to 150, this would give you 5 invasions, 1 more than right now, but you do need more moats to get said invasions. Also, siphoning would work the same way it does now, not like it was in Prime, but as it is in the game currently, and waves would also work the same. Light level would be a little different, make it a little more difficult, kind of like Grandmaster, but not to that level, being that you are also fighting Guardians with light levels enabled. So I would bring it down from Grandmaster's mountain of a light level to maybe 10 levels over max to enter it. I'm not quite sure on what that number would need to be, but it'd be lower than Grandmaster. This would also be a 1-round game mode for a game. Because of the additional invasion and also making it take longer to get that invasion, along with enemies being harder to kill and champions, and the changes I would make to Primevals, I think that having it be 2 out of 3 just makes the game too long, and there's already enough catch-up mechanics that I've baked into this, such as the champions, such as the extra invasion, and such as it taking more moats to get that first invasion. Now I'm going to talk about the card specifically for this. This would be a card match-made game mode similar to Trials, maximum of 5 wins on it though, and the loot would be structured off of that card. But it would be 2 wins, 4 wins, and 5 wins for loot, and of course 3 losses total on your card before it destroys itself. Now a little more specifically to weapons and armor, due to Gambit's lore and all of its connections it has to different factions and groups within Destiny, you can take the designs a lot of different ways, and I would prefer exploring a lot of those. Like maybe for a season the 9 want to join in, you can get some 9 inspired armor and weapons, maybe reskin some of those Trials of the 9 weapons and armor. Or maybe it's just Drifter doing it on his own, either for a season or whatever. They could be Gambit Prime inspired, or they could be classic Gambit inspired. Maybe it's inspired off the Season of Arrival's weapons. Maybe Spider sponsors a season, and it's the Tangle Shore style of weapons. Those could all be cool options. But the one thing I would want most of all from these is it to light up with your role. Yeah, that's right, bringing back Gambit Prime roles, new and changed to make it better fit the game as it is now, and I think it's just a better system overall. So let's get into that. Instead of it being armor based like before, it would be attached to your card. That way you can play as a single role throughout your entire card, and you don't have to take off your high stat roll armor, and you don't have to sacrifice using an exotic or not. So the way I would do this is not just the linear path of here's what you get for your role, but you get options, you get subclasses of these roles. So say you're a sentry. Maybe you want to be focused on defending your team from invaders. Maybe you want to focus on clearing the bank of blockers, or instead of those two, maybe you want to do a little bit more about that primeval. These are all different ways that you could play, but these aren't expressed in the linear path we had before, or at least you couldn't specialize in those. So that was my objective with this, but you don't have to pick a linear path. Those are just suggested paths. You can pick and choose from 4 different perks. First, I'm going to talk about my concept for the Sentry. My 3 different paths that I've created are the Hound, the Locksmith, and the Commander. The Hound is focused on hunting down invaders. The Locksmith is focused on protecting the bank, and the Commander is focused on the primeval phase. The way that I have you pick what perks you want from this isn't like, oh, I want to be a hound, locksmith, or commander. You can do that, or you can pick a level 1 perk, a level 2 perk, a 3, and a 4. Now, you can't take 2 or 3 ones. You just take one from each column. So say I want to do additional damage to Taken after getting a kill, but I also want to get an additional stack of Envoy Slayer when I kill an invader, and I want the invader's spawn called out to me. I can choose to do that if I wanted to. That's the freedom I want to give people in how they create their role and build. I will not explain all the perks and all the roles that I came up with in this video. I might make supplemental videos later, but I will post my tables I have for each role and kind of go over a few things. Like on the ones that say X this amount of motes, like True Sight for allies to see the invader for 5 seconds. That means that if you have 5 motes in your inventory, you can maybe charge the melee button like a warlock charging a grenade up. You consume those 10 motes. They don't go to your bank or anything, they're gone. But your allies are able to see the invader for 5 seconds. That's just my idea behind it. And in column 2, you have standing near a bank prevents siphoning, which would mean that if you're near a bank, it won't get siphoned. And if you're standing near the bank, it heals you. I put those in the same column to prevent people from making bank-centric builds that are too strong. Like, I think that could be a great build and a great strategy, but with some of the other ones, you'll see it more commonly, like collecting motes on collector could do some really broken things, but separated, they're not too bad. I wanted to kind of prevent that and make sure that these builds aren't just, I sit on the bank and we never lose motes and I can't die. That's not how it just seems a little unfair. Next, I'm going to talk about the collector for a second. My 3 roles I've created for them are the Fat Cat, the Con Artist, and the Rogue. The Fat Cat focuses on getting as many motes as possible and holding on to those motes for as long as possible. The Con Artist focuses on taking motes, not stealing them like the Rogue, who benefits more from siphoning and has a chance to get extra motes from picking up motes, and are able to block anywhere, like send blockers to the bank from anywhere. It just costs more motes. Now, on to the Reaper. We have our 3 different builds, the Slayer, the Butcher, and the Devastator. The Slayer focuses on your weapons and being able to kill faster and make it easier for you to utilize your weapons. The Butcher focuses on killing yellow bars and on creating more motes and melee damage. The Devastator focuses on blast damage to take out adds, whether it be from giving your weapons chain reaction for 3 seconds, or sliding into enemies, throws them back and puts an explosive charge on them, similar to the Nova Warp melee. They all do different things, but they all have the same idea for the most part, which is destroying adds in different ways. Next, we have the one I'm afraid to share because I know people are just going to be mad about it anyways, the Invader. I have separated this into 3 different categories: the Assassin, the Harasser, and the Bandit. The Assassin focuses on killing Guardians, no duh. Harasser focuses on just being annoying, whether it's becoming a blocker or making the blockers tankier or being tankier yourself. And the Bandit focuses on siphoning and stealing motes from the ground more often and stealing ammo even. It's a little bit different than it was originally, and you can make it really strong. It is the Invader, it's just strong to start with, but I feel like this is a nice compromise from what it was compared to what I've made it. So that's it for roles at the moment. I may do another video diving more in depth for each one of the roles and the perks I've made for them if that's something you're interested in. But now I'm moving on to maps and my design philosophy behind how I would make them. I think Gambit maps need to be experimental and try different mechanics, whether it's like the movement in Deep 6 with the conveyor belts, or New Arcadia with the portals, and Legion's Folly is the same way, the man cannons from the Tangled Shore map. Maybe you make a larger map with Sparrow access, but we shouldn't just stop at movement. Make some obstacles. The Tangled Shore and the Dreaming City had open air that you could fall into. Legion's Folly, the drill can kill you, hilariously enough. But there could be so much more. Maybe you can push a high value target into a trap and kill it. Maybe the trap can be used to trap invaders or to trap your teammates even. Gambit, bottom line, Gambit is a unique mode and needs unique maps that are more mechanic heavy. That way, in a competitive environment, it assists the smarter team to know the map. The smarter your team is and the better you strategize, the better you can utilize the map around you to get a distinct advantage over those who don't know the map as well. And I think that's something that is interesting and cool that you could do in a PvE VP environment that just doesn't work as well in PvP. I'm not gonna give specific map ideas right here, just generalizations and just expressing what I think. Maybe a map that, you know how in Apex they have the drones that fly in with the crates. You shoot the crate and it gives you items. Maybe it'd give you a Warmind cell or elemental wells, orbs of light, ammo even. Just different unique things like that that change the way the game is gonna go. I will make a mini series probably every month, come out with a different map concept, and I'll do the same with Primeval, possibly in the same video for both. And that's something I'm personally looking forward, just once a month, a map and a Primeval. I think it's a good idea, and I think it'd be interesting enough, and you guys could also give your suggestions for different mechanics to see in a map and different locations to go. But I'm gonna go to Primevals now, because that's also something that I want to talk about. It's so disappointing to see in Gambit how there's one Primeval mechanic, two if you want to separate how the meatball works, three if you want to count Prime, but that mechanic's not there anymore. There's just not enough difference between the Primevals. I want personality to my bosses. Maybe there's a Hydra or something that's taken and it spawns the crystals from Eater of Worlds or Menagerie. So you have to take Vex Craniums and maybe platform, maybe not platform, but you have to break the crystals in order to do damage or deal more damage to the Primeval. Maybe you have the blades from Reckoning, so it's just two bosses with big axes. Maybe take an ogre with the Gambit Prime Pool of Light. Just different mechanics and different bosses, but each boss has its own mechanic. Like, you're not gonna get some Taken Captain with the meatballs mechanic. No, the meatball has its own immunity phases. I think personally that's a great idea, to make each Primeval specific and have its own personality. That's something I like to see in my bosses, not just, it's the Primeval, you kill the envoys to deal more damage. I want personality in my enemies. And along with the map series, I will have a Primeval specific series, or they'll be lumped together, but I do want to make concepts for Primevals because that's just something I think is cool. So look out for that. That should be a lot of fun. And if you have any ideas, drop them down below and I'll give them a look, and maybe you'll be featured. Who knows? But yeah, looking forward to that, and I just want more personality in my enemies. That's about it for the video. In summary, my wishes for an endgame Gambit mode is a long match with very controlled heavy spawns, 1 to 2 champions a match, a weekly rotation of enemies, maps, and Primevals would make the game mode feel different every week, while also making each week unique and fresh, and also allowing your team to strategize the best way to take on the week and your enemies and how to throw them off and learn maps better. And winning would include adept weapons and mods for the best players, while also the maps and the bosses would be unique. That's about it for the video. Again, Twitter, Twitch, Discord, I have all those things. Subscribe, all that. I should have a comment down below with all that information. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you come back one day.